11 months ago, this man had $42 million sitting across 6 accounts. Today, he is standing in a house that no longer belongs to him, holding a phone that has been disconnected, waiting for a moving truck he cannot pay for. His name was Daniel Voss, and by every measure that matters to a bank, he is broke. Not behind on payments, not stretched thin, broke in the full legal sense of the word, with debts that outweigh anything he owns. What makes this story different is not the fall. Rich people lose money all the time. What makes this different is the speed. $42 million gone in under a year, and almost none of it through the reasons you would guess. No casino, no divorce, no stock market crash wiping out his portfolio overnight. So we're going to walk this story backward, starting from this exact moment and moving in reverse, month by month, until we land on the single decision that started the countdown. By the end, you will know exactly which choice, made by a smart, disciplined, self-made millionaire, put a clock on his own fortune the moment he made it. 11 months before this moving truck, Daniel still had the mansion, the boat, and $31 million in liquid assets. That number alone would let most people live comfortably for the rest of their lives without ever working again. At this point, on paper, nothing looks wrong yet. 10 months back, the first crack appears. Daniel had put $8 million into a private lending fund run by a friend from college, a man he trusted enough to skip the paperwork most investors demand. The fund missed its first quarterly payout. Daniel was told it was a timing issue. He believed it because the man delivering the news had never lied to him before. 9 months back, Daniel pulled $4 million from a separate account to cover a real estate deal that was supposed to close in 30 days. It did not close in 30 days. It did not close at all. The land, a stretch of undeveloped property outside Austin, sat in permit limbo while carrying costs ate through the money every single month. 8 months back, the lending fund from his college friend stopped answering calls. Daniel flew out to check on the office in person. The office was empty. Not closed for the day, empty as in the furniture was gone. That single trip is where the real damage becomes visible for the first time, because $8 million, the money he trusted to a friend, was simply not coming back. Here is where most people assume they understand this story. A friend betrayed him, a real estate deal went bad, and a rich man learned an expensive lesson. That is the surface version, and it is the version Daniel let his own family believe for months. Financial records pulled later during the bankruptcy filing tell a different story. The $8 million fund loss and the $4 million land deal combined only account for $12 million of the $42 million he started with. $30 million is still unaccounted for at this point in the timeline, and that money did not vanish through fraud or bad luck. Daniel spent it, deliberately and mostly on things that looked, from the outside, like the normal behavior of a successful man protecting his image. A $22,000 a month lease on a second property he used maybe 6 times a year. A private jet membership he justified as a business necessity. A security team of 4 full-time staff for a family that had never once received a real threat. None of these individually would sink a fortune this size. Together, sustained every single month for years before this countdown even began, they had already hollowed out the foundation. The friend's fund and the failed land deal did not cause the collapse. They simply removed the last thing holding it up. 7 months back, with $30 million still remaining, Daniel made the decision that financial experts who reviewed his case later called the true turning point. He refused to cut a single expense. His accountant sat him down and laid out a simple plan: sell the second property, drop the jet membership, cut the security team down to 1 person. Small changes that would have stopped the bleeding almost entirely. Daniel said no. Not because the numbers were wrong, but because he believed the fund losses were a one-time event, and cutting his lifestyle now would look to everyone watching his life like an admission that something had gone badly wrong. 6 months back, he threw the largest party of his life, A birthday celebration that cost nearly $900,000, paid for entirely in cash, timed almost exactly to the week the lending fund officially filed for dissolution. Guests who were there later described it as the best party they had ever attended. None of them knew the man hosting it had just watched $8 million disappear for good. 5 months back, creditors from the failed land deal began calling directly instead of going through lawyers. Daniel stopped taking calls from unknown numbers. His remaining money, now down to around $20 million, sat almost entirely in illiquid investments, meaning it looked substantial on paper but could not be converted into cash quickly if he needed it. 4 months back, a second business he owned, a chain of boutique fitness studios, missed payroll for the first time in its 6-year history. Daniel covered it personally, pulling $300,000 from his last liquid account to keep 40 employees paid. That decision was the right one morally. It was also the moment his cash reserves crossed below the line where recovery was still realistically possible. 3 months back, the second real estate project, a smaller one this time, also stalled. Regulatory delays again, the same pattern that had already cost him millions once before. He had not learned the lesson the first time cost him. By this point, roughly $10 million remained, and the monthly expenses had not gone down. 2 months back, Daniel finally listened to his accountant, but by then the advice had changed completely. It was no longer about trimming expenses, it was about selling assets fast enough to cover mounting debt from 3 failed ventures at once. The mansion went on the market. The jet membership was canceled with a penalty fee larger than most people's annual salary. The fitness studios were sold at a steep discount just to generate cash. 6 weeks back, the mansion sale fell through during final inspection, a structural issue that had been ignored for years because there was always enough money to ignore it, suddenly needed $200,000 in repairs before any buyer would close. Daniel did not have $200,000 sitting free anywhere. 3 weeks back, the IRS sent formal notice regarding unpaid estimated taxes from the previous year, back when he still believed the fund losses were temporary and had not adjusted his filings. The number owed was $1.8 million, with penalties accruing daily. That single letter is the moment the countdown became public. Word spread through his social circle within days. 9 days back, the bank that held his primary mortgage began formal foreclosure proceedings. Not because Daniel had missed one payment, but because the loan had a clause tied to his liquid net worth, and that number had fallen below the threshold required to maintain the loan's original terms. Most people never read that clause when they sign. Daniel had read it. He had simply never expected to need to worry about it. 3 days back, the moving company arrived to remove what could still be sold. Furniture, art, the boat, all of it tagged and cataloged for auction. And that brings us back to today, to the man standing in an empty house holding a disconnected phone. Every piece of this story connects back to one root decision, and it is not the friend who ran off with $8 million, and it is not the real estate deal stuck in permit hell. The root decision happened 7 months before the countdown even started, sitting in that accountant's office when Daniel chose image over correction. He had a clear warning and a clear, achievable plan to fix everything with minimal pain. He said no because admitting a problem felt worse than having one. That single meeting is the moment this entire 11-month collapse became unavoidable. Everything after it, the party, the missed payroll, the failed second real estate deal, the foreclosure clause, was simply the math working itself out on a schedule nobody could see except the people whose job it was to read the numbers honestly. Daniel Voss is not broke because he was reckless with risk. He built $42 million from nothing once already, which means he understood risk better than most people ever will. He is broke because when the first crack appeared, he protected how his life looked instead of protecting what his life actually was. And once that choice gets made, at that scale, there is no version of luck good enough to reverse it in time. This is the pattern behind almost every fast financial collapse among people who earned real money rather than inherited it. The fall does not start with the headline event. It starts months earlier in a quiet room with a warning that gets ignored. If you want to see how this same pattern played out for someone who lost far more in far less time and somehow kept it hidden from the public for 2 full years, That story is waiting for you right here. Click it now because that one starts even faster than this.